So, Michael, as we know, last week we talked about Parasite winning Best Picture, but somebody who wasn't happy was President of the United States, Donald Trump.
He wanted Green Book to win again.
Yeah, exactly. The president says the United States has trade problems with South Korea and wonders if we can get Gone with the Wind back. So, what do you think, Michael? Do you think Gone with the Wind should have won Best Picture?
Yeah, I think it should have won every year since it came out. Like I was saying, Luke, I was complaining about how it got too many foreign films in Best Picture because it ruins the foreign film category, because it ruins the suspense. But
you're just like Trump.
Yeah, but nobody cares what I think. It's so funny to me that a lot of the people who support Trump are the same people, and obviously there's so many examples of this irony, but they're the same kind of people who say, I want politics out of my media. I want politics out of my films, out of my books, out of my video games, out of my comic books. I don't want politics anywhere. Get your politics out of my sports game. And then it's like, oh, a Best Picture winner was a country which we have a trade dispute with. Well, they can't win. No.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I read about this from Trump today. A really fascinating thing. He originally wanted to be a Broadway producer. Like, he loves those old-timey movies, you know. He probably loves West Side Story as well.
Yeah. Michael Bay likes West Side Story too.
Yeah, exactly. So. He probably loves all those old movies, and that's why he mentioned Sunset Boulevard and Gone with the Wind, like classic Hollywood. And, like, this is actually, you know what this is with Donald Trump. This is one of the things that we're going to miss when he's gone, hopefully. Defeated by Bernie Sanders in November. It's these just hilarious outbursts. We're going to miss him. We're going to miss him, folks. You know,
I'm going to miss them.
Yeah, they are. It's just hilarious. Oh, God. Some elements are bad, obviously, as we'll discuss in BlacKkKlansman, but some elements of his presidency have been really, really fun.
Yes, it's true, yeah. And, I mean, the good news is, maybe even if he loses, he'll remain a permanent political fixture in the media, so
that would be great.
Be fine. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Like Sarah Palin. Oh, brilliant. Love it. I'm here for it. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week we are continuing our look at last year's Oscar winners. And of course, we've already looked at Green Book, which was the best winner, and we've looked at Roma, which won Best Foreign Language Picture. And now we're winding down a bit. We're looking at, one Best Original Screenplay. I mean, who cares about that? Am I right? And we're looking at BlacKkKlansman. Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about BlacKkKlansman?
Sure thing, Michael. So, BlacKkKlansman is a 2018 American biographical crime film directed by Spike Lee and written by Charlie Watchell, David Rabinowitz, Kevin Wilmot, and Spike Lee himself. The film is based on a 2014 memoir, BlacKkKlansman, by Ron Stallworth. The film stars... it was produced by Jason Blum as well. Just thought I'd get that out there. Yeah. The film stars John David Washington, Adam Driver, Laura Harrier, and Topher Grace, among others. And it was released on August the 10th, 2018 in the United States. And you know why they released it on that date, Michael?
August the 10th. It's the anniversary of when Nagasaki was bombed.
It is the anniversary of something.
The anniversary of Martin... No, it wouldn't be that.
It's really not that hard to get.
I guess maybe Do the Right Things release.
No.
Is that? Okay. I don't know.
Really disappoint me sometimes.
Okay, well, it's hard to... It was the anniversary of Donald Trump's birthday. It's the anniversary of when the Civil Rights Amendment was passed.
No.
It's the anniversary of when the first human being left Africa.
Well, no, all of your guesses are wrong, Michael. And I really thought it'd be quite easy to guess it. It happened 1 year earlier. It was theatrically released in the United States on August 10, 2018, as it was a day before the first anniversary of the Unite the Right rally, which of course was played at the end of the film.
Duh.
Yes, which got all that press and attention. Yes, exactly. Duh. I thought that'd be really easy because it says at the end, like August 2017. This is what. Okay, whatever. I'll move on now.
I know. Well, to be fair, I like to spend less time looking at dates and more time looking at important issues for the black community.
Okay, right. And what was the budget then, Michael, for BlacKkKlansman? Can you get this right?
I really don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm going to guess. I feel like it was kind of the low tens, so maybe 14 million.
Yeah, that's a really good guess. It's 15.
Oh, good.
So, well done. You've kind of redeemed yourself there. And what about the box office?
10 billion. No, let's think. I don't think it made a huge amount, but I think maybe it made like kind of 95 million.
Are you serious?
That's too much. It's too.
No, that is incredibly close. It's 93.4.
I swear, I'm not looking at anything.
So you got the budget almost correct and the box office almost correct. This is unprecedented. I think you more than made up for not knowing why this movie was released when it was. That is very good guessing.
And the good news is, now I have guessed, I can actually look at the Wikipedia so I can get all of the characters right.
Right, good stuff. So, Michael, that's the background on BlacKkKlansman. Did you like this movie?
Yeah, I thought it was a good film.
Yeah, I thought, there are some issues and there are some moments where I was kind of scratching my head and thinking, as I like to do. But apart from that, I think it was a decent movie. Definitely worth a watch. I wasn't bored throughout it. It was fine. 2 hours that basically I spent watching this movie. So, Michael, have you got any nitpicks for BlacKkKlansman?
Yeah, I think I've got 4.
I've got 1.
Okay.
Why was Ron Stallworth asked to be David Duke's protection? It makes absolutely no sense, and of course this part of the movie isn't based on historical accuracy. This is purely Spike Lee or whoever wrote this part writing this in. Just is completely stupid. It seems ham-fisted. For the plot, we got to get Ron Stallworth into the situation where Adam Driver is with David Duke. We got to get him in there, and it's just completely ridiculous. When Ron Stallworth says it's a safety issue because he might recognize my voice, he is entirely correct, and it may blow the whole operation.
Yeah,
it's just completely mind-blowing that the police decided to do this. And what's the police captain's response? Is well, you can also talk jive, can't you? It's are you fucking serious? Surely there has to be some paperwork to go through with this before you say that, not just, you can talk jive. And he's also the only black officer, and you pick him to be David Duke's detail. It's come on. I just thought that was silly. It was just not. They didn't have to do that. What they could have done is have maybe Ron Stallworth suggest, hey, what if I'm his protection so I can see what's going down there? I don't know, something like that. Because it make him be the one who does it. Because if and then the police captain would be like, well, you've talked on the phone. And he'd be like, no, it's okay, I'll put on a different voice. It's fine, I can remember, I can talk jive and all that. And that would, that would make more sense.
Make more sense, yeah.
Yeah. But whatever. Anyway, that's my one nitpick, and it's a very big nitpick.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, I think part of it, the whole film feels very silly. And even though I'm sure this is what actually happened historically, and therefore it's a weird thing to nitpick, but it has to be my first nitpick, it really doesn't make any sense to me at all that Ron Stallworth continues to be the black person on the phone. The logical thing you would think surely is, okay, they got away with it that wrong time, one time. They got away with that one time. So Ron Stallworth called him. He obviously, was just speaking kind of normal, I guess. And then Adam Driver goes in and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll pretend to be you. But then they just continue. It's Ron Stallworth continues to be the guy on the phone. Again, I'm sure that's what happened in reality. Maybe it's not, but I'm sure it was, and that is still very weird to me. But it just seems okay, you've already kind of played with fire a bit by having it where you've got one guy doing the voice one time and one guy being a person one time. But they're just no, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep having it be one guy doing the voice and the other guy being the person. It didn't make sense to me. And obviously, again, it's maybe a weird thing to nitpick because I would assume that's what actually happened in reality. But to me, I was just thinking, this is weird. I don't get it. And I guess maybe if I wanted to substantiate this as a nitpick for the film, I'd say that Adam Driver and Ron Stallworth's voices are not similar enough. If they wanted it to be for me to not question it at all, you'd be oh wow, they can do the exact same voice. Therefore, there's literally no reason. But the thing is, it's established that they don't really have identical voices. So you think, Anyway, so that's number one.
That's a good point. They don't actually have that similar voice. So they should have worked that out. That is a good point.
One of my other nitpicks, which I didn't actually include, was going to be that nobody in the world sounds like Adam Driver. Or should I say,
nobody in the world sounds like Adam Driver.
Because he's got a really deep voice. Number 2, how could being circumcised be an indication of Jewishness when white Americans, circumcision is a big thing in white America. So it's literally hey, let me see your penis. I bet you got it circumcised. You Jews do some funny thing with your dick. Which would kind of make sense if it was in Europe, where most Gentiles don't get circumcised. But in America, in white America, circumcision is a common thing. So it doesn't make sense. And finally, these two are very related, so I'll kind of just bundle them to one. Number one, the Klan members should have, the ones who realise that obviously Adam Driver's an undercover cop, should have just drawn attention to it immediately, really. They should have just gone, the minute they found out, they should have gone, hey, called attention to him right in the middle of it, you would think. And then they just go, hey, he's an undercover cop. And basically it doesn't really matter who, what they worry about, causing a scene. It's they've got somebody who is infiltrated. It just seems weird to me that they'd be oh no, we'll wait, we'll let him hang out. And then on that note, when they let him wait, it was weird to me that Adam Driver didn't run away right immediately when the guy said, hey, Flip, and obviously he got referred to as Renee, you'd think that would be the moment where you go, okay, I'm getting out of it. But they come back, and he's still there, and only when they kind of twist the knife a bit more, then he's like, okay, I'm going to go. And you just think, well, why didn't... You would have thought there'd be a much bigger sense of immediacy from both sides in that situation. The clan members were like, okay, we've got to really make sure everyone knows as soon as possible that this guy is... And it's funny that David Duke, at the end, obviously, apparently still doesn't realise that Ron Stallworth was a fictitious person. So, I don't know, they clearly don't like communicating.
Yeah, I know. I thought maybe the wife who survived would have, told people when she had a phone call. I don't know. This seems like it would have eventually got back to David Duke before he next had his conversation with Ron Stallworth, but I don't know. Maybe it was like a day later. I'm not sure. Anyway, so let's get on to the plot now, Michael. So I shall just read it out. BlacKkKlansman follows the story of a black person called Ron Stallworth. It's set in the 1970s in Colorado Springs, and the plot follows the first African-American detective in the city's police department, Ron Stallworth, obviously, as he sets out to infiltrate and expose the local Ku Klux Klan chapter. Is that a hard or easy thing to say? Ku
Klux Klan chapter. It's the chapter. The chapter. So yeah, you're right. You feel validated, Luke. It is difficult to say.
Okay, so I think obviously this movie has a very basic structure. So Ron Stallworth, about literally a quarter of the way in through the movie, calls up the KKK because he wants to get in there. And I will talk about why he does in a bit, and I have some issues with that. But yeah, so he calls them up, and then he pretends to be, white, and then guess what? Shenanigans ensue. Adam Driver has to, pretend to be a Ku Klux Klan member, or have, the views of someone who wants to join the KKK. And there are some funny scenes where he's, pretending to be racist and so on and so forth. And that continues for a good probably hour of the movie. And then you get some little drips about some bombs and some C4 stuff. Then in the last half an hour, David Duke comes to visit, and that culminates with all of the people who want to, blow up this black, I guess, what it is, the Black Student Union.
Yeah. It's like a meeting.
Yeah, so they want to blow up this Black Student Union meeting, and they obviously fail at doing that. So obviously, you put the bomb on the car, and then the car blows up and kills the racists who wanted to kill the black people anyway. So yeah, it's quite a simple movie, to be honest. And I guess the scenes are interesting enough, they're well acted, it's got some good dialogue to keep you interested in it long enough. But I do think that sometimes watching it is a bit like, I see where, I see what you're trying to do, I get it, but I think at the same time there are some points where I'm just like, okay, I feel like I've seen this kind of scene before where Adam Driver pretends he's racist and nearly gets caught out, and then he has to, do some explanation, and then things go back to normal. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, what I was actually thinking of when I was watching this film is like Fargo, and basically, I think there are other examples of this, but a film about where the point of it seems to just be the sheer incompetence of everybody on display and like how stupid people look, because that's basically what Fargo is. It's just a comedy, or The Big Lebowski, or almost any Coen Brothers film. It's about just how stupid people are, and how kind of inherently humorous that can make even somewhat kind of serious situations. And it almost feels like that's what this film should be going for. But it's kind of weird that this film, in a strange way, takes itself very seriously, despite the fact that it's a really stupid premise.
Well, that's the thing. You say it's a stupid premise, but it happened in real life.
Yeah, that's the crazy
on a true story. So I can't really get with the stupid premise thing. And the thing is, though, it's a very interesting premise in real life. A black person infiltrates the KKK. What? But in real life, of course, what happens is he infiltrates the KKK, and I saw on Wikipedia. We'll bring it up later. I'll go through the historical accuracy thing. He just gets some members who are in the KKK, who are in like the military, reassigned. So the army knows what's going down. They know they're members of this hate group. And that was really it. He didn't foil any bombings. There weren't some mass, arrests because of what the KKK were planning. There wasn't any of that. He was just like, okay, I'm infiltrate the KKK. And it's very interesting because, he's black and he fooled them, but nothing really exciting happens. There's no like third act to the story. And that is why in this movie, it's like, it seems like a stupid premise, but it's not. So you got to then, you got to then create something at the end, which just, again, it's like we have a lot of scenes of Adam Driver pretending to be racist, and he's pulling it off, and then at the end we're going to have a nice bombing scene. And yeah, again, I think the scenes where Adam Driver's trying to pull off being racist, they're really good scenes. They're entertaining. I'm not saying, they're bad, but it's just like, it's not going to be a great movie if that's all you're going, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It is like, it's a fun film. But I was actually thinking about it. The defeat of the KKK at the end, it does seem kind of anticlimactic and just a bit weird because basically, he just runs around. It kind of, again, it feels like the Klan, and obviously this is stuff that's completely made up in the film. The Klan have no idea what they're really doing with this bombing, and obviously they fail so hard, and you just think they're so bad at this that it kind of just takes a lot of the sting out of the victory, because it's just like, okay, they defeated these guys, but it kind of seems like if they hadn't been there, the Klan would have probably just blown themselves up by mistake anyway.
I was going to get onto that later at the end.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're talking about whether, what is the message of this movie, and one of that is, the incompetence of the KKK. Not just in that scene, throughout the movie. But yeah, I guess I want to talk now, if that's okay with you, just explain the plot really, and how it kind of does fall short, but it kind of has to really, because, in real life, nothing happened which was that interesting, so you got to create something, and yeah, it's I guess it's hard to do that. But anyway, the instigation of the plot is when Ron Stallworth is sitting at his desk, he sees an advertisement for the KKK, he calls it up and says, "Hey, I want to be a member." And then, obviously, he gets in. But why does he do that? Why does he randomly call the KKK up? I remember the first time I watched this, I was like, wait, why has he done that? That seems like it's a very important point. It's the fucking most important point of the movie, the instigation. And it's just like, oh, I've seen this, and I'll call it up. Is he pissed off with how the police department is only investigating black groups? Is that it? He obviously went undercover to the Stokely Carmichael thing, and, he's like, well, I didn't think they were that dangerous, to be honest with you. I didn't think they were that bad. And so is he like, what, with the real, why aren't we investigating the fucking white hate groups like the KKK who have actually done some really bad shit? But he doesn't give off that impression at all. It's just like he's reading the newspaper and he sees it and he's like, oh, I'll do that. I think it seems
it's
like
kind of very casual, almost like incidental.
Yeah, it does seem incidental, and maybe that's what happened in real life. But I think it would be a good juxtaposition. I mean, maybe that is the case. Maybe that's what Spike Lee was going for, but I didn't get that. And it would be really good juxtaposition if he was like, fucking hell, we're just these black groups we're investigating, come on. Like this, and then it's his advert for the KKK. He says to one of his colleagues, like, it's bullshit what, we're trying to investigate these black groups. They're not a threat at all. They're just pissed off with how they've been treated, and they're rightfully, they should be pissed off and all that, and have that dialogue, and then call the KKK. It seems underdeveloped, and I think that is kind of true of the character itself. Because Ron Stallworth, he does seem underdeveloped. He's Colorado Springs' first black police officer. Must be interesting, torn between two worlds. What are his feelings about his girlfriend calling him a pig? All of this, like, it's an incredibly interesting position to be put in. And he just doesn't, it just feels like very two-dimensional. And so, the fact that he doesn't have a motivation, really, to call up the KKK, again, is unfortunately a symptom of the larger problem with Ron Stallworth in this movie. The real Ron Stallworth, obviously, he's underdeveloped. So
I agree. Basically, this film, it doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of, because I was thinking about, and part of it is because this film is sort of a modern homage to blaxploitation films of the 70s. You can tell it from like the music, where it's kind of playing like this sort of 70s music,
and he does the karate chops as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the thing I was thinking of was Jackie Brown, and how I was thinking, like, is this film as good as Jackie Brown? That's sometimes when I think about it, I'm trying to think about what my opinion of the film is. Like, is it as good as this similar film? And obviously, because Jackie Brown, it's a story about, obviously, black character who is dealing with some kind of, there's undercover things going on, there's all this sort of, shenanigans. But, the difference is, I was thinking, like, I cared about a lot of the characters, even very minor characters, in, Jackie Brown. In this film, I just thought, I enjoy the plot. I kind of am entertained by what's happening, but I don't really feel very strongly about the characters. I think it's relevant, especially because when you look at the last two winners of Best Picture, which were Manchester by the Sea and Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, they were so...
This is Best Adapted Screenplay.
Oh, is this Best Adapted? Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that. But that makes sense, of course, because Green Book won Best Original, and obviously this was adapted from a story. In terms of it being a Best Adapted Screenplay, when you're talking about Best Adapted, the thing that you've got to do when you're adapting something into film is make it coherent and kind of well paced, because obviously if you're dealing with a book, books will have different pacing to film. And the other thing you might have to do is address characterization in a different way, because in a book you can just write. And I guess the adaptation was an autobiography by Ron Stallworth. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
By the way, Jojo Rabbit won Best Adapted this year.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, obviously Ron Stallworth, when he's writing his own autobiography, can say, I did this because of this, or this made me feel this way. And he can basically just tell the audience how he's feeling or what he's thinking. And part of the thing when you're adapting to film is that you can't do that. So you've got to show the characterization in a more cinematographic way.
And did Spike Lee do that?
Yeah, I don't really think he did, which I guess means should he have won Best Adapted? Who knows? I actually want to look at what else was
Probably not. I mean,
nominated.
I'll have to look at the nominations
Yeah, I'm looking this up now.
from that year. But again, does this seem like a great adapted screenplay? Well, here's the thing: the first third of the movie apparently is all true, and then they make up the next 2 bits. And again, do you really obviously it's based off an autobiography of Ron Stallworth, and do you really get a sense of Ron Stallworth in this movie? Again, he's 2-dimensional. So should it have won Best Adapted Screenplay? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing there is a film out there that was nominated or not nominated that was better, a better adapted screenplay than this. But you're right. But what you said before about you being entertained, and I think that's where that's a positive point of the plot, and I mentioned it, and I think that's a good way to summarize it positively. It's an entertaining plot. It's entertaining. There are many scenes throughout the movie which you can sit back and enjoy, and you don't have to. Obviously, there's issues with it and the issue with the whole structure, and that stops it from being a great film, but it is entertaining. And yeah, so I don't want to criticize it too much. As we said at the beginning, we both liked it. So yeah, anything else to say?
Yeah, not really. I mean, the thing is, obviously, one of the problems with this film is that, and when I said that the film kind of takes itself very seriously, as opposed to a film which kind of revels in the farcical nature of it, which would obviously be a film like Fargo. The problem there is that you get these very intense action scenes, or not action scenes, but kind of scenes of characters threatening each other. Obviously, you've got the whole scene with the guy I'm going to make you take this lie detector test, and then Ron Stallworth shows up and throws the thing through the door, the window. As I was doing it, as he did that, I kind of thought to myself, why did he really do that? That seems silly to me that he did that. And I thought, of course he's doing a distraction, because obviously it would be really bad if Adam Driver gets found out. But in my head, because I was so not really willing to suspend my disbelief in order to buy into the tension that this film's trying to create, it made it difficult for me to actually feel the tension because obviously in a film where I think what they're trying to go for is like, oh no, Adam Driver is going to get caught. Oh no, this is terrible. But because you're at a point where you've got this guy who again has this really unique voice, trying to pretend he's somebody else, and so much of it just feels so ridiculous that when you're supposed to oh yeah, this is really intense, you're like, I didn't really know. So yeah, I was sat there thinking, I don't know if I really felt the intended effects on scenes like that. And there are several scenes where it's like, oh no, is it? Oh, he's going to get caught. And obviously the other scene with, where they actually find out, hey, that guy's not called Ron Stallworth. He's called Flip. He's a cop who arrested me. And I feel like it almost feels like the film wants you to have that kind of moment where your stomach drops and you're like, oh no, something seriously going to happen. Oh, they're going to find out. But again, if that's what it was trying to go to, which it kind of felt like it was going to, because it didn't feel like this film was trying to be a silly, stupid comedy to me. It kind of felt like it was, and if that was the intended effect, then it didn't really work. So that's kind of the problem. Yeah, basically, you don't really get a sense of the feel for these characters as characters in terms of their emotions and motivations, and also this film doesn't do a good job at getting the unbelievable aspects of this story to be believable. And then obviously, finally, the KKK doesn't actually feel that much of a threat. So those 3 things do kind of take away from the intensity of the plot.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So basically, if this movie had been I thought that the first word that popped into my head was better. It would have been better. If just Spike Lee had done a better job, it could have been really good. But as it is, it's just good, I think. Anyway, so that's the plot basically. Again, not that much to talk about for obvious reasons, as we've said. Now we're going to move on to, I guess, why this film was made. Although, here's the thing, obviously this biography was published in 2014. Then we have Donald Trump elected in 2016 as the President of the United States, so perhaps this movie would have been made anyway, regardless of Donald Trump being president, but because Donald Trump was president, there was some very, obviously Spike Lee made this an analogy to Trump being president
Yes.
of America. There's the scene with the sergeant where he's saying like, "Oh, you know what? America could vote for David Duke to be president." And guess what? He'd hide his racism under things like immigration and affirmative action and so on and so forth. And then obviously Ron Stallworth says, "Come on, man. America's not going to like David Duke." And guess what? They did. It was Bill Clinton in 1992. That's what I'm going to get onto later when talking about the analogy to Trump. Then David Duke says we're going to restore America's greatness.
Oh, yeah, I picked up on that.
Yeah, and then when he's chanting America first, there you go. And then obviously the ending. And I think I like this line from this Vox article about this. BlacKkKlansman isn't wrong about the evils of white supremacy, but it's pretty sure you, out in the audience, aren't going to get it unless it spells out the message in blinking neon lights. And even then, the film seems to fear you might miss the point. Because obviously there's ending and there's footage from Charlottesville and Unite the Right. And do you know what's very interesting about that Unite the Right thing, Michael, in 2017?
It was filled with racists.
No, I was
anti-white racists on the other side.
Yeah, they were the real villains. I was in America at that time.
Oh, yeah.
When I went down.
I think I kind of knew that because you were doing your little helping young people be good at sports thing.
Yeah, that's what it was called. And so and I remember it was crazy because obviously I think that's the worst moment of Donald Trump's presidency. At the time, obviously you didn't know that because he'd just been there for like 8 months, and he was like, "Oh, is this going to be the worst, or is this going to be just the beginning?" But it seems like it is the worst. That's what most people point to as the worst moment in Donald Trump's presidency, when he called Nazis fine people and all of that shit. I remember being in America, and basically a few days after that whole Charlottesville thing, Trump was coming to New York to spend his first night in New York at his Trump Tower hotel thing, obviously, since he became president. And I was in New York, and there was just amazing moment when I was with the people who I was with in the camp, and they'd come to New York, obviously, to see the sights and all that. And when we all realised, it was like, oh shit, Donald Trump's coming to New York tonight. And like we could just walk, and that's what one of my friends did. We literally walked.
Run him over.
We walked to see the protests outside Trump Tower, and there was all the Secret Service and all of that shit, and it was like, and there was a lot of, obviously there would have been protests anyway because it was right after Charlottesville. The protests were so vociferous, and loads of signs about Charlottesville and Nazis and all of that, and it was so many people there. And of course, New York is very much anti-Trump. It's one of the largest anti-Trump places in the entire country. So all of these people, all after Charlottesville, it was quite a sight to see. So I have got what happened in Charlottesville burned into my memory. There is no doubt about that. And I guess I told that story just to say,
give it a personal edge.
Yeah, give it a personal edge. So
show how you were affected by Charlottesville.
Exactly, and that's the main thing. But that's the thing. I've got Charlottesville burned into my head because of that. I'll never forget that. But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure everyone in America also remembers that, because it was like I said, the worst thing in the Trump presidency. And obviously, yes, Trump is racist. I think what happened back in the 1970s, the Ku Klux Klan, they were racist. I think the parallels, like the Vox article said, they're pretty easy to figure out. And the fact that Spike Lee has to add in that little bit on the end, and yes, obviously it was dedicated to Heather Heyer, and that's great and all of that. But really, does he need to go that far? I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching the movie knows about Donald Trump's speech, putting the moral equivalence between the white supremacist people who marched and the counter protesters, and they're pretty sure that David Duke probably supported Donald Trump and all of that. It's just so frustrating that he had to put that on the end, and even if he didn't put that on the end, he had to keep on giving those wink, wink, nudge, nudge moments throughout the movie, like, hey, isn't this just like Donald Trump right now? It's frustrating. Yeah. It is very frustrating.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. Like, Spike Lee, he's not that good at making a subtle point. In a way, that's why I think maybe you could say Do the Right Thing works quite well, in that its point is not too. It's not got as much of a point as it's not got like an obvious kind of message as Do the Right Thing. It's sort of the message of Do the Right Thing is more there is no message. The message, I think, is just things are shit when racism exists. And therefore, because of that, and also it is kind of intended to revel in violence. But I remember there's another film by Spike Lee called Bamboozled, which is about a guy who is a black guy who tries to start his own minstrel show, like, minstrel, like blackface show.
Yeah.
And it's okay, I guess, but the film literally starts with not just the words, the dictionary definition of satire written on the screen, but somebody reads it out. And there's an interview where Spike Lee's talking about it. He's going like, I just thought it was important to start with the definition of satire so people know it's satire. I just think, why can't you just communicate that with your film? So he does like to be obvious sometimes, does Spike Lee? He
does like to be obvious. And that is something that, again, it's not the worst thing ever, because it means he cares about the messaging in his film and he wants to get it across to people. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure you got it across. You didn't really need to. Like, if you didn't include all the Trump stuff and the references to Trump and all that, people would still say, well, it's a very important movie based on what happened just a year ago with the Unite the Right thing. And so, but here's the thing: there is this section in the movie, and I read this. I think it was in the Vox article as well. I think it was, and it was a really good point that was made. Where all the KKK are watching Birth of the Nation. Birth of the Nation. And obviously they're laughing at it and they all know what happens. And obviously Woodrow Wilson gave those quotes, as Harry Belafonte said, about, how basically Woodrow Wilson thought that this was, the history, this was all true. And so many white Americans would have seen this and said, this is reality, this is true. And that led to the revival of the KKK in the 1920s. And so Spike Lee is taking that message in. He's learned that lesson and realised that people are informed, or have, I guess, maybe not informed. People, when they see what happens in movies, they then take that into real life. And so when he wants to make sure that his movies are essentially propaganda, just like Birth of a Nation was. That was pure propaganda, and the propaganda worked. The KKK had a revival and all that. He sees that and says that as a lesson. It's like, well, I care about,
racial
the message
justice.
I'm putting in. I care about racial justice, so I want to make this fucking explicitly clear. Don't let what happened, with the KKK in the past happen again with Donald Trump. Stop that right away. And so, there is some sympathy I have that it is propaganda. Well, maybe propaganda is too strong a term. I think the Vox article described it as Spike Lee has a propaganda streak about him. I think maybe that's the best thing to say about it. And it's true, he does. And I guess when you look at the Birth of a Nation, it worked. And I think many people, I guess one of the most frustrating things about politics, contemporary politics today in, liberal circles, I guess, or left-wing circles, I guess, if you want to use another term, is that how many people talk about politics in terms of Harry Potter references. And it is frustrating, and it's fucking stupid, but again, it shows that people think about politics, people think about life, and use movies as a foundation to think about it. So there you go. Spike Lee understands that, so that's why his movies are, as you said before, not subtle.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously, the other thing to remember about Spike Lee is he has been known in the past to make some outrageously terrible films. So, I don't know. He's like, he's not M. Night Shyamalan, because he hasn't done the whole start really good and then just get worse. He's kind of just peppered the bad ones and the good ones kind of throughout. So you sort of are left with the impression that he definitely has it in him to make a bad film, and that sometimes in his good films, I think you can probably see the elements of that, like the lack of subtlety and things like that. Overall, it's just, I mean, the examples are just, really obvious. And the other thing actually I was thinking is that again, I guess I can see why you might do this, but having the end shift in modern politics is again another example of where the film, because of the plot not really sucking you in and drawing you in, doesn't really work as well, because you don't really feel...
I was going to get onto that after.
Okay, I thought maybe...
Yeah, well, one thing I just want to say before we get onto that is I mentioned before about, kind of sarcastically about, how the racism of the Klan can be compared to a president, a modern day president. And,
that line.
Yeah, I said...
we didn't really speak about that much.
Yeah, I said Bill Clinton. And here's the thing, I said that because obviously he signed that crime bill in, I think, 1994 about, super predators and all that, but very harsh drug laws and all of that. And then before him, there was... Judge Bush the Elder, who did that racist Willie Horton ad, That was quite infamous. And then before that, there was Ronald Reagan, who actually said "Make America Great Again" first. And he was very explicit. Well, that's the thing. He wasn't explicit. He I think probably the term dog whistle applies best to Reagan. Trump just says that shit. He just says it. But Reagan very dog whistly, talking about welfare queens and all that. Reagan is the person who, when that sergeant was talking about, hiding racism behind, affirmative action and tax reform. I think that sums up Reagan far better than Trump.
Yeah,
I really do. And then obviously George W. Bush, the younger, he was quite racist as well, particularly to people with brown skin. And then we come on to Obama, who obviously was better in that respect, but still had some issues. So I just think Trump, in terms of, and this is what I think a lot of people who are liberally inclined, shall I say, in America, don't get about American presidents. It's it's always been racist. Bill Clinton, has Trump signed a bill that has been as damaging as the crime bill that Clinton signed in 1994.
Yeah, Obama deported more people than Trump. Don't forget it.
Well, it's true. I mean, obviously, there's more people, I think, who were crossing the border under Obama under Trump, and Trump's only been there for
that's probably true. Yeah.
For 4 years. But it's true. Obama did deport a lot of people,
and also the whole illegally torturing people in a prison camp. So
there was that as well. And Bush, obviously, the younger Bush did that a lot. And so this is what I'm thinking, and I get what he's trying to say, because the Unite the Right rally was truly striking in how open it was. You had neo-Nazis marching in the streets in America. And it was shocking at the time. It was really wow, shit, is this how bad things are right now? But I think about how many racist policies and racist things that American presidents have done since that, since this movie was set. It was set in the 70s, all of the shit that happened. And I think, Trump he's bad. He's the most explicit. But again, I say that Clinton 1994 crime bill, the stuff that Reagan said and did, he's not completely out of there. And again, that's why I don't think people, again, with a liberal inclination get about American presidents. Trump isn't that far from the norm. Maybe in what he says, yes. I mean, what he actually does, not really. And again, I think that has to be mentioned. He's probably the worst, but not by this massive, significant margin that people like to think.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And it reminds me of, I guess you've seen it, the SNL skit about, Trump getting elected, and it's got Dave Chappelle and Chris Hart, and there's the famous line, "Oh my God, guys, I think America might be racist."
Yes.
And then Dave Chappelle's like, "Oh my God." I think I remember my granddad told me something about that. He was a slave or something. And
yeah, no, it's true. It is true. It's there was a lot of people, again, the liberal inclination, probably white as well, who thought, "Oh my God, America is racist." And then that's how because Donald Trump says it so outwardly, and that's how these same people can then, because Mike Bloomberg's in the news now because he's running for the Democratic nominee, how these same people can turn around and think, well, I'll elect Mike Bloomberg to stop Trump's racism. And it's just wait, Mike Bloomberg, one of the most racist mayors, in America, he's the guy? Is that the substitute? Things aren't going to get, better in terms of racist policies pushed by the United States. I can guarantee you that. And it's just because Trump is explicit about it. And then it comes back to, well, you just want civility. Really, you just don't want people to, hey, you're fine with the dog whistle. You're fine with the dog whistle. Just don't say it out loud. And of course, that means, you don't really stand for anything. You just don't want to hear it.
And if you don't stand for anything, if you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah, that is a very good line. So yeah, again, I think there are people watching this who agree with this message and then could happily go and vote for Mike Bloomberg to get Trump out of office, which again, as we've been pointing out for the last 5 minutes or so, would be hypocrisy. Yes, and same people would say, "Oh, Reagan was a great president." Again, no. I
wish Reagan would be Ray gone.
We'll move on now to the ending of the movie, and
the ending of the movie.
The ending. So, obviously, the point of the movie is, I think, well, look at how dangerous what happened in the past was with the KKK. You have Harry Belafonte telling this story about. Obviously, he mentions Birth of the Nation and all that, but he also tells a story about this black kid that he knew that was mentally retarded, who basically got beaten up and because he was accused of raping a white woman and beaten up and then killed, and then he had pictures of him taken and they were being killed obviously, and then sold as postcards and so on just the absolute disgusting white supremacy and just the racism that was going on. That's intercut with the KKK members, watching Birth of a Nation during self, and it's like the message: do not let it happen again, because it very clearly could. But then I think about the message, and then I think, well, all the characters at the end of the movie, when Ron Stallworth is on the phone to David Duke, they're all laughing at David Duke.
Yeah.
At the end, they're all laughing. It's like, what a fucking moron.
Yeah.
And like the KKK look completely incompetent throughout the movie. They
Yeah.
look stupid. They look foolish. They've been tricked by a fucking black man for the whole fucking movie. That's the whole premise. Like, how stupid are they? That's the whole fucking instigation of the plot. And yeah, it seems like if you're trying to make them, if it seems like such a threat, like the racists, they're so cartoonishly racist as well. Like, and they're so stupid, and it's just like, if you're trying to put this message across, why make the KKK, and why have almost the final scene, all of them laughing at David Duke? It's like, ha ha ha, look at the KKK, they're idiots. But doesn't that not fit well with the overall message of be careful about, what happened in Charlottesville in 2017? Isn't that a bit of a contradiction, Michael?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I'm reminded of something which Lindsay Ellis said I don't remember what the video was. I think it might have been about The Producers, the film about the people who make the Nazi musical. And she was saying, well, American History X, a very powerful film about racism, but it also kind of makes racism look cool, whereas The Producers makes racism look like a big joke. And that's how you really hurt Nazis. And I actually thought, far be it from me to criticize somebody with at least twice as many subscribers as us, but I actually thought that's quite a naive thing. I think that's something which a lot of people believe, and I don't think it's true, that basically by mocking Nazis, that's how you defeat them. I don't think that's true, because one of the things it talks about here is kind of the idea of Nazis as dog whistles. But I think the other thing that makes Nazism strong is that basically Nazism is kind of a joke. No one really believes it. So if somebody, makes a joke about how Jews are evil, then, hey, don't worry about it. It's fine, because no one actually believes that. So when you make a film that's basically saying, look, these KKK people, they're basically just a bunch of goofs, those goofy KKK guys. You get, the big fat redneck guy who, you seen,
he looks like Haley Joel Osment.
I was thinking of My Name is Earl, the Randy from My Name is Earl, who's just like, I hold the record for the longest time staring at the sun. That kind of thing. Just the stupidest thing. And obviously, it doesn't really, like you say, it doesn't really work with the tone of like, you've got to be afraid of people. But also, like, it doesn't really work with the actual kind of goal of defeating Nazis. And obviously, defeating Nazis is a bit of a kind of grandiose goal, but making Nazis, kind of putting them in their place in the political sphere. Because actually, being kind of the people who aren't taken seriously is sort of what they want, because even though Nazis aren't taken seriously, a lot of their ideas are. So at the end of the day, people can go, look at those stupid Nazis, but then they can still support, go like, well, I think that these, we've got to keep the illegals out and stuff like that. They can support the same ideas while also going like, oh, but it's fine, because obviously I'm not a Nazi, because Nazis, they're just the jokers in those silly films who people laugh at.
Yeah.
And I've always thought like a better film would be a film that actually seriously deals with how Nazism does come to be taken seriously, rather than a film about how, look, silly Nazis.
Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously, it's fun to make fun of Nazis. It's fun. But is it, if you want to stop it, which this movie is trying to do, is that the best thing to do?
Yeah, maybe if you make fun of Nazis, you're the real Nazi.
Yeah, it's probably not the best thing to do. And yeah, I agree with what you said concerning Lindsay Ellis. It's like American History X. If you make racism look cool, then obviously you have the message that racism is actually bad enough. Of course, the what's he called, the character? No, the actor.
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton at the end is not racist, so he has that character arc. So that's good. That's what you need. But yeah, if you want to take racism seriously, I do think you have to have that kind of it has to look not fucking incompetent.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. In order to defeat Nazism, you kind of have to respect Nazism, which obviously sounds like a terrible thing to say, but I think it's kind of true.
Well, you have to take it seriously. That's what you have to do. You can't just say, lol, look at those fucking idiots in the white hoods. If you want to actually take it seriously and stop it. Because it's saying, lol, look at them in the white hoods. How ridiculous do they look? It's kind of like, well, again, you're not actually tackling the arguments that they're making, like you said before. And that is how they win people over.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, like, it's kind of, obviously we talk about how the end kind of clashes. I think the beginning then clashes with the end, because the beginning, what it's about? Well, it's Alec Baldwin, right? I think it's Alec Baldwin.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, saying, explaining the complex way that white nationalists use language in order to introduce white nationalist ideas without explicitly introducing white nationalist ideas. And obviously, I mean, you look at something else would be the way that white nationalists will make innocuous things racist, like Pepe the Frog, or obviously the OK symbol. And then obviously when that becomes to be associated with the Nazis, then they say, oh, look, even just doing the OK symbol makes you like a Nazi. So they do these things, which are kind of intelligent things to do. They're quite clever things to do in a political context. In other words, dog whistling is a clever way of communicating a message and then saying, hey, oh, we didn't really say that. I just said that that we need to deal with the problem of inner city violence. And how can you think that's racist? Are you saying all black people are inner city, involved in inner city violence? I would say probably that a lot of the peaceful black people who just go to work and have a good time, they're actually probably applauding me for saying that we should deal with this problem. And they probably think you're a racist for insinuating that all black people are involved in inner city violence. That's the kind of thing that an actual white nationalist could say very easily because of the way it's kind of the language is set up. And yet that understanding of white nationalism becomes incoherent if you couple it with the idea that white nationalists are too stupid to really do anything, and they literally spend all the time going, are you a Jew? I heard those Jews eat babies. And,
like
so,
get your dick out, yeah.
So it's in the idea is says, these white nationalists, they have these clever ways of making it so they can kind of manipulate conversation, but also they're so stupid that they just blow themselves up.
Well, that's the thing. I think certainly today that is the case. Maybe back in the 70s that was the case because of the lack of internet and, basically lack of communication. If you want to get your ideas out and you want to have effective tactics, it's harder to do without the internet. But that is, I think, what we've seen. Obviously, that guy, Steve Bannon, one of the pioneers of this kind of movement, getting like young people involved in this kind of, Nazism and white supremacy. And it's like post-ironic kind of thing. It's like that's how it kind of begins, and so that tactic I think in particular is very effective to just draw people to their side, and so and that's obviously the movie is trying to tell you, hey, these guys are scary. These guys look at what the fuck's happening. So perhaps not the best thing to portray them as, stupid and like blowing themselves up essentially. Yeah.
Also, actually, the other thing I feel like we've spoken about this before, but I think another mistake is I don't think a lot of white nationalists actually care. Are as serious as you kind of might think they are about their ideology. And I think the thing I said before is that I can't remember what the context was for why I said this, but I've definitely said it before in this podcast. White nationalism and Nazism and fascism in general is just kind of school shooter mentality. I don't think really they actually care that much about preserving the white race and securing the future of white children. Some of them do, yeah. But I think there's a large chunk of them that basically just, exactly. I feel like
does the Walter character who's like, I want to step down, does he actually really care about that? Probably not. Yeah. He agrees with it, but he's just like, I want to, he says to David Duke, hey, I could do it on a national level. Like, he just wants to move up in the world, I guess. But more than anything, that's his first priority. So some people really do, some people don't.
So, and obviously then the implication or the consequence of that is if you're just somebody who is only in it because you want to antagonize people and essentially just express your own sense of anger at the world for whatever reason, which is why I think quite a few of these people, especially on like 4chan and things like that, where you got these basically incels who are just like, I saw a black person with a white woman and it made me angry because of the destruction of the white race. And obviously it's basically just that they're lonely and it makes them angry that they're lonely. And obviously from that perspective, making fun of Nazi ideology, I don't think it's going to bother these people that much because most of these people I think are just really there as an excel, like, we just laugh because we trigger the libs. So in a way, it's kind of like a lot of Nazis don't even seem to take themselves seriously. And obviously there are, quote, true believers. But I think a lot of people who are in the movement actually are mostly just in it either to antagonize people for fun or to express their own sense of anger or both.
It becomes ironic, but it's ironic and then it's post-ironic. It's like, lol, I actually believe this, lol. It's like, lol, not even joking. That kind of stuff. Anyway, so I think we talked about that, how the contradiction between showing the KKK as really scary and then showing them as fucking morons doesn't really work in this movie, so that's something that Spike Lee should have done better. We'll move on to something that Spike Lee should have also done better, according to Boots Riley. Oh. Certainly, which is the police.
Coming straight from the underground.
Yeah, how the police are portrayed in this movie. That's one thing I was watching it the first time around, and I thought, this is very friendly to the police.
I was thinking that as I was watching it, yeah.
Because I watched it when it came out in cinemas, before I heard any of the quote-unquote discourse about BlacKkKlansman, and before I heard Boots Riley say what he said, and I was like, this movie is really kind to the police in a way that I'm not sure I would, because I obviously know about American American politics concerning black people and the police as well, and Black Lives Matter and all of that. And I'm sorry you are as well knowledgeable about that. So I was thinking, especially in the 1970s, I'm like, I'm really not sure about this. And Boots Riley wasn't either. He called BlacKkKlansman a made-up story in which the false parts of it tried to make a cop the protagonist in the fight against racist oppression. He also said for Spike to come out with a movie where the story points are fabricated in order to make a black cop and his counterparts look like allies in the fight against racism is really disappointing, to put it mildly. He concludes by pointing to a New York Post report that claims Spike Lee and his production company were employed by the New York Police Department in 2016 to improve relationships between minorities and police. By now, many folks know that Spike Lee was paid over $200,000 to help in an ad campaign that was aimed at improving relations with minority communities, Riley says. Whether it actually is or not, BlacKkKlansman feels like an extension of that ad campaign. I think, certainly, that makes sense now. Yeah, it's all about the money.
All about the Benjamins,
all about the
Benjamins. Omar
said. Spike Lee defends his depiction of the police, essentially saying, well, check my credentials, that's what he said. Look at my films. They've been very critical of the police. But on the other hand, I'm never going to say all police are corrupt, that all police hate people of colour. I'm not going to say that. So yeah, and from what I take from all this, I have to agree with Boots Riley more than Spike Lee, because I was just looking at the ending scene where all the white cops are laughing at David Duke and how racist he is and how stupid he was and all of that. And yeah, I just thought it's quite unrealistic. Like, these are white guys in the 1970s. How the hell are they so anti-racist and, laughing at this old racist KKK guy? Like, the sergeant seems to be very on the up and up about, black, about the threat of racism. And I'm like, okay, it's not the most unbelievable thing in the world, but I'm just struggling to see this as real. I don't think this would have happened in real life if David Duke was on the phone. I don't think there'd be a bunch of white people laughing at how stupid he is. He doesn't know a thing about black people. Not like us, like white police officers in Colorado. We know a lot about black people. It just doesn't seem to fit. And so and then obviously there's the whole fucking thing about, well, the police are actually the ones helping stop the KKK. And there are some scenes obviously when the police beat Ron Stallworth when he's trying to arrest that woman. Yeah. And, they don't believe he's a cop and all of that. And so that's in there, and that's true. That Spike Lee has put that in there. So he's not portraying the police in that great light. And obviously he has the racist cop, the really racist cop in that, the cop that is so racist that he's definitely not like all the others. And
that's definitely true.
Yeah, and he's definitely not like all the others. So much so that all the police.
I'm not like other cops.
Yeah, and all the police. Yeah, exactly. All the police walk into the bar and arrest him, which I was just watching that. I was thinking, I'm really not sure this is realistic. I mean, maybe because of what Ron Stallworth did, they're like, okay, we'll do you a favor, we'll get this guy, so he doesn't bother you anymore because you did a really good thing with your undercover mission. But it's like all of them walking in and arresting. That would be like there would be a lot of police officers, I think, in that police station who would not like that move. Because that guy he's maybe the most racist. Like, Adam Driver says he's a quote-unquote bad cop. But as we all know, cops tend to stick together. He even says it.
He literally says it. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, exactly.
Cops are like family. So you basically set up one of your family members and arrest him and get him thrown out of the police force so he loses his job. Yeah. That is quite a severe... So again, I don't think that part is realistic either. So I have to say, on the whole, I agree with Boots Riley. I think Spike Lee is much too friendly to the police in this movie. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, well, see, my opinions changed throughout the film from kind of more, I guess, positive to negative. At first I thought, okay, this is interesting. Because I like films that try to be less than black and white. And obviously I think it's fair for people to say, well, there's a lot of situations which are black and white. And obviously you could say police racism is one of those things. But I kind of
like the idea of the pun.
Yeah. But obviously, I was thinking to myself, well, I'm sure there were some places where the cops would have been nice, where they would have been on board with this thing, where, there would have been generally a good spirits amongst the policemen. So, I kind of respect Spike Lee for maybe offering a different interpretation from just, the police are bad. Because I was thinking, it'd be a bit simplistic to just have it be a story about, look at how racist the police are, that keep getting in his way, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, at least he's kind of doing something new with it. But then, number one, obviously, the fact that you just kind of said that whole thing about how he was hired to improve relations between black people and the people, minorities, maybe adds a more cynical dimension to it. And the other thing is that, yes, some of it just feels so ridiculous. Like the way that, like, the funny thing is it almost would have been better if they wouldn't have had the racist cop, because the way the racist cop was treated was like, oh yeah, he's like Sammy, he's the bad one. And then at the end, it's kind of like they solve it. They go, oh yeah, don't worry, we got that bad racist cop. And the idea that, and again, it's so weird that Spike Lee, because you wouldn't think he'd be the kind of person to do this, but it's almost, again, as if racism in the police force isn't a systematic institutional problem that fundamentally relates to a lot of aspects of police culture. No, it's one bad guy, and once we get him, it's all sorted. And yeah, so that was the point where I was thinking, no, this isn't right. I don't approve Spike Lee.
Well, you're right. The fact that he wrote, or someone wrote this character, this really racist, and it's not got anything to do with the rest of the story, really, this racist cop. So it's clearly in there to show, I mean, what is the point of it? It's like, well, look, there are racist cops. And so Spike Lee can point at that and say, hey, look, they're racist cops, look at that. But then the police kick him out for being racist. Yeah. And arrest him. And then and I guess it's a nice thing that, well, the guy who's antagonising Ron Stallworth, he's got his comeuppance and all that, so that's good. But you think about actually what happened, and in that scene, in that situation, it's like you said, nobody likes simplicity, nobody likes black or white. Oh, the police are bad, and they're all racist. But this goes too far. And when I was watching that, I was like, nah, I don't think this is right. I don't think this is right. This is far, far too friendly to the police officers. It's the 1970s as well. You think about today, this wouldn't happen. In the 1970s, it's not. Yeah,
I was thinking that, like, because when like I mean, the scene where they are all just laughing along, you're like, look at this stupid white guy getting the fun made out of him. I think there's a strong argument to be made that nowadays a lot of white people, because of kind of the tribalism that people can be raised to when they're only exposed to one particular race, would feel uncomfortable today laughing along with a black guy making fun of a white person, because I think there's a lot of white people that haven't had like, oh, he's making fun of a white person, I'm a white person, and they wouldn't really be on board with that. So obviously in the 70s things would have been even worse, so
yeah, exactly. So bad job by you, Spike Lee, bad job by you. Yeah, what can we say? I mean, we're kind of criticising everything that he's done, which kind of... Yeah. I mean, this thing, we'll conclude at the end, but yeah. But one more thing to talk about is historical inaccuracy, and this is from Wikipedia. Although based on a true story, the film dramatises the events of the book, and the time period has shifted. Notably, the true identity of Stallworth's partner remains secret. He never went public with his story due to face-to-face interaction with the Klan. The character portrayed by Adam Driver was developed by Spike Lee as a plot device. So that's interesting and that's one thing we need to talk about with Adam Driver. That's a good thing that Spike Lee did, because he's Jewish, obviously, Adam Driver, and he has that speech about, I never knew I was, Jewish, or I never thought of myself as Jewish, now I can't stop thinking about it, which, of course, this kind of racism, as the famous saying goes, first they came for the communists, then they came for the trade unionists, I didn't speak out, all of that shit. Eventually, these people will come for you for some reason or another, and that's exactly, what Adam Driver learns to understand. Which is good. Do you have anything else on Adam Driver's character?
Obviously, when Ron Stallworth is like, this is your fight, you got to get in this, and he's like, oh yeah, I don't know. And then eventually he kind of learns. And also the fact that I think it's good to communicate the mentality of the KKK with regards to, like, hey, because obviously, that Ben Shapiro is the kind of person who would go, oh, I didn't like this film because it was showing it was racist against white people. I don't know. That's the kind of thing Ben Shapiro would say, even though he's Jewish. So I don't know, maybe by just going, hey, Ben, buddy, that a lot of your fans would probably pal up with the people who would kill you if they got into power. And also, actually, on that note,
famous Venn diagram.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. What is it? It's like people who agree with Ben Shapiro, people who would kill Ben Shapiro, something like that. But and the other thing is, actually, they kind of show they maybe do an okay job at showing kind of the fact that a lot of these white nationalist types don't have very good attitudes to women, and I guess you could say that's a positive, because that's something which white women should probably be aware of. Ultimately, you're just going to be asked to blow yourself up, honey. You can do better. So, but yeah, that's kind of tangentially related to Adam Driver. Yeah. It's like, well, it shows how these KKK guys, they don't really like many people. I don't associate tolerance with the KKK, really.
Yeah, they really aren't fans of anybody apart from white Christian males, who also, of course, are... Well,
or communists.
Yeah, who aren't Irish either. You can't be Irish.
Oh yeah, there's lots of things you can't be. It's just so challenging.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Anyway, so continuing on with the...
So much for the tolerant right.
the inaccuracies. The events occurred in 1979. The film was set in 1972, so I'm not really sure why.
Okay, yeah,
they did
that seems weird because you would have thought it would almost make more sense because the 80s was when, I feel like if I understand black people are generally comfortable saying that by the 80s things were better. They weren't great, but if you were to ask like most black people, when did things start to get better? I feel like a lot of them would say like, well, the 80s when everyone was listening to Get Tricky. It was a great time.
Yeah, I'm sure that sums up their feelings well. The first third of the film is relatively accurate, but the bomb plot in the film is inspired by an unrelated actual KKK bombing that took place in 1963. Some in the actual KKK chapter had high-ranking military positions. As a result of the investigation, 4 members of the US military were reassigned. There you go, I think that's what we were talking about when I say that's the extent to what happened. Stallworth later joked they were sent to the North Pole. The character of Patrice is fictional. Stallworth was dating his future wife at the time of the investigation. Again, so why is Patrice in there? Well, for a plot device, I guess. So she's what the Klan members are targeting. The president of the Black Student Union at the university. Yeah. Very much a central target there. And I guess also to, I would say to have Ron Stallworth's character be a bit more dimensional. But again, he has this one line. I remember he has this one line where he's saying to Patrice, like, I sometimes think I'm two people. And that's not explored again. And again, it's frustrating. Like, you should explore that some more, because again, it's really interesting. He's really torn. That's it. They should have used the relationship between Patrice and
to develop
Stallworth's relationship to develop it, as you said. That's it. Historical inaccuracies. Is it bad? Not really, no. I guess the point is the premise is ridiculous, but the premise is true. So I think anything that happens after that's okay. That's my take, essentially. I would say I don't really mind. I mean, again, I think if they were, it seems like I will say there were a fair few liberties were taken, and with that in mind, I feel like they probably could have taken some liberties in a better direction. But they could have, if they were already taking liberties, then they probably could have changed a few things maybe to make it make more sense. But that's just a thought. I don't know. Okay, one final thing for the conclusion. I like the score, and
I like the score too.
And it was really, it sticks in your head. Maybe that's because it's played quite a bit. But I really thought, that's a really nice score. It's really well done. Obviously, you've got the black exploitation theme in there as well. That's why the score is the way it is. And it's quite nice. I do like it. Just props for that. So now we shall move on, Michael, to the conclusion of this movie, BlacKkKlansman. Do you want to go first? Because I've talked about it.
Yeah, okay. First of all, Luke, I've decided that Can You Ever Forgive Me should have won, and failing that, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And I've actually seen every single film that was nominated for. Have you seen? I don't know if you've seen them. I'll tell you all of them just so you know, and you can think about this. There's BlacKkKlansman, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Can You Ever Forgive Me, If Beale Street Could Talk, and A Star Is Born. I have actually seen all of those, and in my opinion, Can You Ever Forgive Me was pretty good. BlacKkKlansman probably didn't really deserve it. Having said that, we have been really down on this film. It's kind of funny because this film is not bad. It is a fine film. The plot is entertaining enough, and it's kind of a bit of an enjoyable film. I really am thinking kind of a low 7, maybe a high 6 though, but I think I'm going to be kind of nice and say it's better than Jumanji, which obviously was a really fun action film, but I'm going to say it's better than Jumanji, but worse than The Favourite. So, BlacKkKlansman.
Okay. Wow, you're really down on The Favourite, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I guess I was. I don't know. Maybe I just feel mean to The Favourite, but
okay,
I guess it wasn't my favourite.
Right. Okay. So I think yes, you're right. This is an enjoyable movie. I reference again the scenes with Adam Driver trying to be undercover and all that. It's fun. It's entertaining, and so it's not the worst movie, is it? It's actually quite good. But if you delve deeper as a movie of this status, you have to, because it was nominated for Best Picture and actually won Best Adapted Screenplay at the Academy Awards. When you delve a bit deeper, you find quite a lot of issues with this movie. I mean, we talked about it. Obviously, there's the police thing, which sticks out and is a choice, which is a bit. I'm not really sure about that one. Spike Lee. There's the analogy to Trump, which of course we've talked about. It's like very on the nose, and just taking that on the nose bit aside, it's like, well, America has been racist for quite a while. It didn't just start with Trump in 2016, and obviously, the ending kind of he contradicts the story. Oh, well, not the ending. The whole kind of movie contradicts itself when like, well, the KKK, they're really stupid. They let this black man trick them. What a bunch of fucking racist morons. But yeah, you got to be very scared about them because look at Charlottesville. Could happen, Again, we can't be too careful. And again, I agree with the latter. They shouldn't have put the former stuff in because I think, the latter, it's true. So I think, overall, it's when you delve that bit deeper, this movie does come up short. And therefore, I think Spike Lee could have done a better job, but it's not the worst thing ever. So let's give it what did you give it again?
I gave it a low 7. I gave it right at the bottom of my 7s.
Yeah, I was thinking 7 out of 10 as well. Because, it's like enjoyable, but again, if you, that's what stops it from going up to the upper echelons. It's just, not that deep. And, well, I guess you could say it is deep, but it fails when it tries to get deep, I guess. So, 7 out of 10 for BlacKkKlansman. Fine movie. So what have we got next week, Michael?
Next week, we have got the conclusion to our epic Oscar saga. We almost started looking at Best Actress if we ignore Best Animated. And now we're concluding by looking at Best Actor. Of course, Rami Malek's performance as Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes, and we shall also be talking about A Star is Born, and we shall also rank all the Best Picture nominees from last year. Thank you for that. We have been selecting and reflecting on BlacKkKlansman. I think, a decent film, but ultimately disappointing given it won the Best Academy Award for Adapted Screenplay. So, join us next week for Bohemian Rhapsody. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.